Good morning and welcome to the Daily Tanya. Today is Friday, the 29th day of Sivan, Erev Rosh Chodesh Tammuz. The Shabbos is going to be Rosh Chodesh. Let's begin with Tzedakah. Gedola Tzedakah Shemekareves es Geula. Tzedakah brings Mashiach closer. And today we're going to finish chapter 7 in Shar, Yichud VeHaEmuna, the gateway of unity and faith. A very deep chapter. We explained a number of concepts. The idea of how there is Yehud Ilah and Yehud Tata, that there is higher level of unity and the lower level of unity. Unity of the world with Hashem from Hashem's perspective, so to speak, and from our perspective. And we explained the concept of Tzimtzum Shaloi Kipshutai. We're talking about the contraction. That Hashem contracted his light, removed his light, so to speak, it doesn't mean literally. But really Hashem is in every part of the creation. And also we spoke about the Sevev Kalalmin and the Memale Kalalmin. That is the light, the encompassing light. That Hashem creates us something from nothing. And there is also the filling light, the individual filtered light, so to speak, that fits each and every creation, whatever level of godly energy each creature needs. And Alter Rebbe explained how all of this godly energy, in order to be able to fit, in order to be able, for us to be able to receive that powerful light, Hashem contracted his light, contraction after contraction, and he veiled this light using the letters of the Torah. Because the Torah itself is godliness, which is even higher than the world. Therefore, it is able to contain this light and contract it to each and every creature. Now, the way it is Hashem did this, bringing about the creation using the letters of the Torah, is in many different ways. There are those creatures in the world, those created beings that are on a higher level, and those were created directly from the 10 utterances. Then there are many, many creatures that are much lower levels. And we explained in the 10 utterances that is mentioned in Genesis, in the beginning of the Torah. Those 10 utterances, they contain the entire creation of the entire world. But obviously we don't have all these trillions and trillions of creatures mentioned there. So he explains that there is the manipulation of these letters in many, many different ways. And there is certain ways of, for example, you exchange letters. There are certain letters that are exchangeable. So when you exchange the letters, for example, you have the Aleph is exchanged, the first letter is exchangeable with the last letter, with the Taf. The second letter, Beis, is exchangeable with the Shin, the second to the last letter, and so on. So when you exchange the letters, that already is a reduction of the godly energy, the godly light. And there is many different types of exchanging, to the point that there's also a way of reducing the light by but using the numerical value, the number of what the letter is, whether it's how many letters there is there, and what is the value, what is each letter represents a number. Aleph is 1, Beis is 2, and so on. So when you have the numerical values, also represent a very, very strong reduction and concealing of the original light. Because just to use an example, when you have, what a number means, what does a number mean? When you have two things, if the two people, they have they both have a similar amount of items. I have 10 items and you have 10 items. Seems like we're both equal. We have something in common. But when you open up my suitcase, they'll find 10 potatoes. And they'll open up your suitcase and they'll find 10 diamonds. So are we now equal? Obviously not. We are equal in the amount of items that we have, but not in the quality. So the fact that two words have a similar number, it shows that their similarity is very, very reduced. And this the Alter Rebbe is going to explain how the most inanimate objects of the world, like a rock, also has the godly soul, and he'll explain how this godly energy is in the rock using the numerical values of a godly name. So let's see inside what the Alter Rebbe says. So here the Alter Rebbe talks about the numerical values that shows about the diminution of the godly light. So it says, "V'cheshboin meire al miyut ha'oyer v'achayus miyut achar miyut." The numerical value, even when it is not calculated through the substitutions and transpositions of letters, indicates the progressive diminution of the light and life force, until there remains from it only the final level. So the final level, שהוא בחינת החשבון המספר כמה מיני כוחות מדרגות כלולות באור וחייס הזה, המלובש בצירוף זה של טבע זו, which is that of the sum and number of kinds of powers and grades contained in the light and life force invested in a particular letter combination of a particular word. So the extent of the remaining life force is indicated by the sum, which reflects the progressive descent and constant diminution of the life force. It is only after all these contractions and others like them, as God's wisdom has ordained, only after it is contracted so it was contracted so strongly. Excuse me. So only then it was able to create the lowest types of creatures like inanimate objects. Only then that the life force could invest itself even in the lower created beings, such as inanimate stones and dust, in which no life force at all is revealed, inasmuch as they represent the lowest levels of the never created beings. You look in a rock, you don't see life. But now that we understand that even the rock, every single creature has a life force from Hashem. And now the Alter Rebbe explains how we see, it brings the example of the rock. We see how in the rock, in the stone, we have the divine energy. So he says, Ki even derech mashal shma meire, ki shirosha mishem oile ban b'misparim. For example, the name Even, the stone, indicates that its source is the divine name Ban. In Even, you have Aleph, Beit, Nun. There is a divine name, which is Ban. Ban is 52. And the way we spell out the name of God, the Yud, the Hey, and the Vav, and the Hey, spelling the Yud, they have different ways of spelling it out. So for example, Yud is Yud Vav Dalet. Now the Hey can be spelled Hey Yud, or Hey Hey, or Hey Aleph. So Hey Yud would make 15. Hey Hey is 10. Hey Aleph is 6. Okay? So you have different names, in different ways of writing out these letters of God's name. And based on that, there is different God's name that is indicated by the number. So one of the ways of spelling it out adds up to 52, which means that a rock is rooted from that holy name 52. And there is the additional aleph. He says there is additional aleph, the aleph of the word Evan, which is added for the reason that Hashem knows. But basically what he says is that the rock comes from that name 52. But of course the name of Hashem, which adds up to the number 52, is a very, very high level of godliness. And the only connection to the rock is the number. So as we said before, the number is a very reduced level of connection. So that's what it says. For example, the name Evan, the stone, indicates that its source is in the divine name Ban, which numerically equals 52, meaning the numerical value of the divine name Havaya, when spelled out phonetically in a particular way. With an aleph added to it from another name for a reason known to its creator. Okay, now the Alter Rebbe says what we just explained. That the name Ban itself, the name of Hashem, which adds up 52, is a very, very high level of godly energy. The name Ban itself relates to very high worlds, and in its pristine state, it can in no way serve as the source of a physical stone. So that's a very high level energy. רק שעל ידי צמצומים רבים ועצומים ממדרגה למדרגה יורד ממנו חי סמוט במועד מועד עד שיוכל להסלבש באבן. Yet, through numerous and powerful contractions, degree by degree, from the highest to higher to the lower levels, there descended from it a life force so exceedingly diminished that it could clothe itself in a stone. And this very greatly condensed life force is the soul of the inanimate beings, which gives it life and brings it into existence ex nihilo, something for nothing, at every instant, as has been explained previously in chapter 1, where it stated that even inanimate creatures possess a soul that brings them into existence at every instant. And now this greatly condensed life force is the level of Memalekol Almin, that he fills all worlds. And the level of Hashem that fills the worlds, meaning condensing the light to each particular creature. As opposed to the level of he encompasses all worlds, wherein the life force is non-contracted in proportion to the spiritual capacity of created beings. So in summary, the divine life force is capable of creating worlds that are infinite both in quantity and in quality. Finite beings are created only when this life force garbs itself in the letters and transpositions of the letters of the 10 utterances, and in the numerical values, which is the lowest level of godly energy. Now continues the Alter Rebbe to say that even that lowest level of contraction is also endless. Because after all, it is a godly energy, even in the level that is condensed to numerical values, it still can create endless levels, endless creations of inanimate objects, for example. וכל כוח המדרגה יכול לברואים כפי בחינת מדרגה זו גם כן להיקץ וסכלס וכמוסם וייחוסם לאחייס עד היד. Each power and grade of the life force, after it has descended and undergone contractions so that there remains only the numerical equivalent of the letters of the 10 utterances, would be able to create beings according to its own level, even unlimited in quantity and quality, giving them everlasting life. Since it is the power of God that diffuses and animates from the breath of his mouth, and there is no restraint to his ability to create unlimited worlds. But the quality of them is not the same as the highest spiritual worlds, being that they were contracted and reduced in quality. Their quality, however, would not be on a level as high as the quality and levels of the creatures, which could be created from the power and degree of the letters themselves. As we said before, those creatures that are in the 10 utterances, that are created from the letters themselves, are certainly at a much greater quality level of existence. Meaning the created beings resulting from the transpositions of the letters, and surely from the numerical values of the letters, would be inferior to the beings which could be created from the letters themselves. And that's the end of this chapter. And here the message, of course, we can take. We get a bigger understanding of what it means that Hashem is one. Everything is Hashem. The inanimate objects are Hashem. There's a godly soul in everything. And yet in the quality of the light is in the letters itself, the letters themselves, the letters of the Torah. So how much can we be connected when we study Torah, we connect to the Torah and doing mitzvahs? That's the end of today's shiur. Mitzvah Hashem. We'll see you after Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos and a good Chodesh.